I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. Few business thinkers have shaped customer experience and marketing as profoundly or as practically as Jay Baer, a seventh-generation business owner, best-selling author, and creator of 6 multi-million-dollar companies. Jay has helped more than 700 brands, from Nike to the United Nations, grow, innovate, and connect with customers in ways that matter. From leading global agencies to advising Fortune 500 companies, he's now challenging everything marketers think they know about owned digital land, AI, and the future of content strategy. My interview with Jay Baer is coming right up. But first, Jay Baer, welcome back to On Brand.
How's it going, my friend? It's delightful to be back here.
I know it is. It's been a minute.
It has.
And like all people that have not talked in a while, I saw a post from you on LinkedIn that was thought-provoking and reminded me why you are such, as noted in the bio, such a big thinker. And as I read that post, it made me think of probably many years ago at South by Southwest or some conference, hearing you talk about, not building on the rented land that is social media. But you had a very detailed, thought-provoking LinkedIn post that I thought, why not treat that like this is an author's reading? And I asked you if you'd be willing to kick us off with a reading of that post on LinkedIn. A dramatic reading.
A dramatic reading of a LinkedIn post. Yeah, this is great podcasting for sure.
Or if you've got Christopher Walken there or someone that could.
You have better pipes than me, but I will do my best. And it's interesting. I mean, this post is about rented land, and of course put it on LinkedIn. And it's funny, like any algorithmically derived content machine, if you say something that everybody agrees with, that tends to do better than if you say something that everybody concurs. So I am not suggesting that I'm necessarily right, but I think I am. We'll find out. Here's what I wrote. Never build your house on rented land. This oft-espoused chestnut by my smart friends Robert Rose and Joe Polizzi has been a core operating philosophy of content marketers for more than a decade. Don't build and interact with an audience on social platforms, video platforms, and audio platforms that you neither own nor control. After all, Meta et al. Have a responsibility to their shareholders, not yours. And they can and do put their big thumbs on the scale to suit themselves. But now, I think the rented land cone may be past its best by date, because with more than 60% of searches not yielding a click, according to SparkToro research, owning digital land that fewer and fewer people visit is like owning an apartment complex in the bad part of town. Quote unquote, search optimization is being superseded by answer optimization, and the rules of that game are different. Large language models, including ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, use broader trust factors when deciding what to recommend when queried. I was in a meeting with Google this week where they confirmed that the breadth of your authority, how often your knowledge appears on other websites and digital destinations, is now crucial rather than the how many backlinks can I get to my website. This means that you need to atomize your awareness and get what you know in more places, regardless of who owns those places. LinkedIn, yes. YouTube, of course. Reddit, yes. An appearance on a podcast that you would not have said yes to in the past, yes, although I've been on the show in the past, etc. Other people talking about you and also inserting your knowledge in more places is going to build trust in the eyes of our AI overlords. So yes, you need to have a strong, credible, updated website, and it needs to be ideally organized for scanning by AI. But the value of your website as a direct consumer interaction vehicle will steadily decline, and its value as the holding vessel for what you know in service of AI recommendations will steadily increase. Do you agree?
Did most people agree? I know I just went straight to email. I didn't. What was the conversation?
No, actually, a lot of people agreed somewhat. But now Robert Rose, who was mentioned as the original creator of that concept of rented land, he disagreed with me and wrote a blog post about it. And Chris Penn, famous smart person in all things digital, also largely disagreed with me. So it's okay. Look, I think anybody who has a degree of surety about their thoughts around AI is fooling themselves, because here's a little secret. Even the guys building AI don't actually know what they're doing or what's happening. So if you're like, hey, here's what's going to happen with AI, my prediction is going to come true, I think that is self-involved at a level that's frankly kind of dangerous. So I think that my thesis is largely correct, that your website is less important today than it was yesterday. It will be less important tomorrow than it is today. And every single day that you draw breath, your website will be less important as a direct interaction point with consumers, if nothing else, because so many of our customers are going to have AI agents working for them. And you say, hey, go out and find me a podcast robot that I employ, and the robot says, you should listen to Nick Westergaard's podcast. The customer is never going to go to the website, but the agent will, the robot will. That doesn't mean you don't have a website. It just means that it's going to be robots talking to robots, and that's a different game entirely.
So you talked in that post about answer
Mm-hmm.
optimization.
Yep.
And I think when I reached out to you after I wrote that, I'm like, I think a lot of things, and I'm not even sure what all and how all it fits together. But the other thing answer optimization makes me think of is kind of another classic Jay Baer idea, and that is that of utility. And that was, I think, for me, one of the most important concepts in the early days of content marketing, content strategy, of being useful, creating content that is useful. How does that fit into this puzzle of answer optimization via AI agents?
Yeah, I think there's some similarities there for sure, especially with regard to how AI wants content to be formatted and structured, right? That's why you see in larger media companies now, almost all the web pages are formatted with a lot of FAQs and a lot of subheads and a lot of bullets, because that's what the AI sort of sucks in to its maw to then spit back out to us. So you're seeing in like real time people rewriting all their websites to just same words essentially, but just a different format. Google in that meeting that I mentioned, it was talking a lot about people using schema markup, which is Google's kind of system for content organization, largely behind the scenes on the technical layer, and like how important that is for Gemini to understand what the website is about, and then push it back out in searches. I mean, just in the last couple of weeks, you've probably seen how much Google is now leaning on AI responses at the very top of every search engine
Right.
results page. I mean, this thing is moving very, very quickly. But our mutual friend Marcus Sheridan has a really interesting new company called AI Trust Insights that allows you to put in a domain name, and then it spits back sort of a 1 to 100% trust score. And that trust score is based largely on the things I talked about in my LinkedIn post, like how many places is your content, how often are you mentioned, ratings and reviews, or any kind of truth bearing customer testimonials, all those kind of things make a huge difference, more than they ever have. And so this idea of being in lots of places, because all of those places are signal to AI engines, I think is definitely going to be a best practice.
Well, and that kind of harkens to your idea of atomizing your awareness.
Yeah.
And, I feel like you used to talk about atomizing content, how many
Mhm.
different
Yeah.
things can you create from this one thing? So, and I know what that means. How does one atomize their awareness and being as many places as possible?
Yeah. I think it literally is. What are all the places that content about you show up, and things that maybe you would have said no to, you say yes to now, not because they're necessarily in and of themselves um, uh, super strong, but or the audience in that particular place isn't giant, but it's another node, right? It's another place where you live. So I'd look at things like guest blogging. Not that people do that much blogging now in the way it used to be, but if somebody says, "Hey, would you like to write an article for our digital magazine about air conditioning repair? This literally happened to me last week. Because I'm doing a speech in the air conditioning industry. So, would you like to write an article in addition to your speech? Would you like to write an article for our digital magazine? Now, with all respect and trust and care for people in the air conditioning industry, it's not really my core audience.
Right.
But I said yes because it's another trust node, right? It's another place where information about me or information that I created shows up. Same thing as I mentioned in that post about podcasts, right? Like I do a lot of podcasts, but there are definitely podcasts that I've historically said no to, either because it may not be the right audience or maybe there's just not enough of an audience for me to spend time on it. But now I typically always say yes because it's just another node. So the size of the audience is less important. The breadth of your participation is more important.
That's such an important kind of distinction to think about, and I think it's challenging because we have this, beyond the AI of it all. It's like our past 20 years has been marketers struggling to be everywhere, and it
Yeah.
sort of feels almost like
Yeah.
the theory of relativity is kind of changing yet again in terms of what the fabric of time and marketing space looks like. And I'm way out of my depth here in
No, I think the
trying to
point
science
is
that.
no, the point is spot on, right? Like everybody always says, like there's only so many hours in a day, and I used to say this a lot. Like if somebody asks you to add a marketing tactic, you need to say, "Great, which one should I quit doing?" Right? Because resources are inelastic at some level. But and so when somebody hears me say on this show, "Hey, you need to be in more places. You need to say yes to more opportunities. You need to create opportunities for yourself if they're not being presented to you, etc." That feels like a lot of work, and I get that. And people are like, "Oh, great." So Jay's advice is just do more work. Awesome. But here's the thing, friends: because of AI, what it requires you to do any of those things is less. So what it requires you to edit a podcast or make a guest article or whatever somebody is asking you to do or you concoct, the net present effort to make any piece of content is less than ever. So I think if you say yes to more opportunities, you end up with the same amount of time spent.
On Brand will be right back after this. Now, back to the show.
Here you go. You missed your calling. If you just had a stand-up bass, that would be impressive.
Yeah.
If I was just sitting here talking and then all of a
And then
sudden
you
for
just
that
pulled a
moment,
bass into the frame and started playing it. That would be incredible. That's word of mouth right there, baby.
you know what? AI can't do that.
Not yet.
But darn it, you made a really good point in terms of, because I think with my whole, you made sense of the time and space thing, which I'm glad you were with me there. But what do you quit? But we also, our bandwidth, time and space has changed. Like this very podcast that folks are listening to, watching now, I've been able to improve exponentially because of AI. Even little things. I mean, I am a scrappy single person marketing machine, and adding things like episode chapters on Spotify and YouTube and formatting it the right way is a bit of a drag for a one man band. But if I can tell chat gpt or whatever tool I'm using to do that, I can add that and add value for users too. Are there other, I mean, I feel like this introduces the converse, or the thing that scares people about AI is that, oh, so then it's going to create my signature special sauce Jay Baer content. What becomes of me? What do we say to that? How do we balance being
Yeah.
able to do more with that in an effective way and keeping what makes you, Marcus Sheridan, Ann Handley, interesting voices?
I mean, first of all, you don't have AI do your thing, right? You just have AI do the mundane things, right? So having AI edit your podcast is not the same as having AI record your podcast, right? I mean, so it's the the last mile are the things that you should have AI work on, not the first mile. But I will also say I was on a video series recently with the company Monday.com, and on that series, I said that the problem is not that AI can do what marketers can do. The problem is that most marketers don't do work any better than what AI can do. So if your content can be easily replicated by AI, that's your fault, not AI's fault. And Mark Schaefer's most recent book is sort of about this idea, right? That it's not dissimilar from my book Talk Triggers from a few years ago. That in a contest of robots, right, the big thinker is king, because as remarkable as AI is, and it is truly mind blowing sometimes, it's not going to come up with the crazy idea. It's going to come up with a good idea, and maybe even an idea that you never would have thought of, but it's not programmed to come up with a crazy idea, right? So fortune favors the bold has never been more true than it is right now, and will be in the future. So if you're concerned about losing your voice, think bigger and do crazier stuff.
I need to get that stand-up bass, I think.
See, we're doing it in real time. Yeah,
I know, right here, and then next episode. But then I would need
I
to.
don't have the heart to tell you that I could literally in 10 seconds create a video of you playing a stand-up bass, and it would look just like you using
Oh,
Google's new New
okay.
York Free tool. But we'll just leave that for another episode.
It's adapted. It's adapted.
Yes, it's coming for us all. But I will say, like, look, this idea that there is no impact of AI on marketers or brand people is misplaced. Like, it is disruptive already, especially for early career people. It's going to be a real challenge. I mean, I've got 2 adult children. My daughter is a professional marketer, or was until last week. She actually was a content marketer professionally, and left the career. Said, nope, this is not going to work for me, because a lot of my job can be done relatively easily by AI. And now she's getting an MBA in hospitality, because the robots aren't going to be running the hotels anytime soon.
There we go. There we go. Well, I like that better than my weird time and space thing. I liked what you said so much that I'm going to repeat it, because I can do a running metaphor. The last mile stuff. I think that's a really important way to think about this. One of the first places that I feel like we as marketers, where AI ended up on our radar, was in the area of customer experience. And that is where you spend a lot of time. And I think for a long time that meant, chatbots. Something that is not an actual human on the other side. What else do you see in terms of customer experience and AI?
You're seeing hyper-personalization, because you can create things at scale using AI that are really, really difficult to replicate with humans. You think about account-based marketing, which was such the rage in B2B for several years. And the premise of account-based marketing, just for folks who maybe aren't expert in it, is that instead of treating your collection of customers as a collection of customers, you treat each customer, potential customer, as an audience of one. And so you have a website that's customized to a particular prospect, and a white paper and a webinar, and all the things are only for Nick, not for Nick and a bunch of other people who look like Nick, which yields better results, right? Everybody wants to be marketed to individually, not collectively. That's just brain science. But to do that, to say, hey, we're going to have a different website for 500 different prospective customers, in them old days, that feels like a pretty heavy lift. And it was, which is why ABM didn't necessarily work quite as well as it purported to. But now, using AI, I could say, make 500 versions of this website, and it is done in 30 seconds. So that kind of opportunity is really attractive. And then on the straight customer experience side, just decision support, right? We don't talk about it enough that AI's ability to analyze data and draw conclusions is so much better than humans. Even the best human analysts can't match it. So to say, all right, what do all of our customers say? Go look at every single review we've ever had and tell me what you'd change about our business based on the corpus of reviews that we've accumulated. That's the kind of thing that is going to be better than having Bob in the customer service department read every Google review and then just like come up with what Bob thinks. So there's a lot of opportunities there to just be. The way I like to tell people this, Nick, is that yes, AI can make a bunch of stuff, but that's not going to be ultimately important. It's just table stakes. What AI is really useful for in business is being wrong less often.
Mm. That's big, and and adds up. You talk about compounding in terms of
Yes.
about everything.
The other thing I might add, a little bit off topic, but I think it's an important notion that I've been speaking about a lot, is if you accept the premise that AI is going to add and already is adding a tremendous amount of efficiencies into your workflow, right? You talked about editing the show.
Yeah.
At scale. So let's say 18 months from now, I very much believe, and again, now I'm AI future casting, which I said you should never do, but stick with me. I'm pretty sure that everybody is going to be approximately 25% more efficient in every role that uses computers, right? So what took you 40 hours is now going to take you 30 hours. And that's just true for everybody and every company. The efficiency gains are so profound at scale. So for me, the question you should be thinking about as a business person, especially as a small business person, is not how do I use AI? You got to work on that. But what you should be thinking about next is what am I going to do with that 25%?
Yeah.
Right. So we call it monetization of capacity. So if everything in your life was 25% easier starting tomorrow, what would you do? Would you just take more free time? Would you cut your expenses? Would you hire more people? Would you merge with a competitor? Would you, introduce a new product? Like, think about that. If everything that took 40 hours now takes 30 hours, what do you do? And to me, the answer to that question is actually what's going to determine the next generation of business winners and losers, not AI, because it'll be table stakes. Like Andy Jassy from the CEO of Amazon said it the other day in an earnings call, like AI is very close to already being commoditized to the degree that you cannot sustain a competitive advantage based on your use of AI. So the next iteration is what do you do with the capacity that AI provides?
Such a good point and an important question. Well, I want to make sure I get to a question that I thought of when I knew we were going to be talking again. And that is on the subject of you've always been someone with a great personal brand. And I've always known in knowing you, I've known of your interest in all things tequila. But in the time since we've last spoke, you've really fleshed out. I mean, it's really a whole other aspect of your brand. In addition, I think to providing greater depth and levity to your core Jay Baer brand. I feel like that's a hard move for some people to think. Oh, there's got to be this firewall between this thing that I'm a big fan of and my button down professional life. What made you decide to move that up from, paragraph 4 in your bio to really a big part of who you are?
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I am depending on how you measure it, the number 2 tequila influencer in the world.
You're like Avis.
I am like Avis, and it's a real business. Like I have 20 clients now of different tequila brands that we work with, and we've got a whole new, enormous tequila-oriented project, essentially a whole another company that's launching soon. So it is literally at least half my time now is in tequila. Which is crazy to think of. And it's hilarious now because I'll walk out on stage to give a keynote speech somewhere. And then and people are like, yeah, whatever. And then I'll walk off. And invariably someone grabs me and says, when you walked out, I was like, that's the tequila guy from Instagram. Have never heard of me, never read a book I've written, no idea. And I walk out and they're like, it's a complete fish out of water situation. It like blows their mind. It's hilarious.
Mission accomplished banner.
Mission accomplished. But you're right. And in fact, I had to kind of fight about this a little bit with my own team. Like I said from the very beginning, I probably said it on this show at some point, that who you are and what you care about is infinitely more interesting than what you do. If you're a realtor and you skydive, then you should lead with that, because there's a lot of realtors who do fundamentally the same thing, but people will remember the skydiving realtor. So this idea that your personal brand and your professional brand have to remain separate, I think, is terrible advice. Ultimately, what your personal brand is supposed to do is break all the ties. So yeah, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to be good at whatever it is you're supposed to be good at, but other people are also good. So the personal brand is simply a memory jogging device, right? It is a mnemonic that's based on attributes of your personality. So for me, on the speaking side, it's sort of like plaid suits. That's kind of my thing. And on the tequila side, it's being a tequila thought leader. But now everybody knows that I'm the keynote speaker who also is a tequila expert. And what we've been able to do, Nick, is in many cases, not all, because sometimes it's just inappropriate, but in many cases, I will do a keynote for some big association or company. And then that night, a 2-hour tequila class and tasting for all the attendees.
You're the speaker and the entertainment.
Exactly. Just like you playing bass on the podcast. It's the same idea. But I will say my agent for speaking, who I adore, we've been together almost 10 years, was like, I don't know about this, man. Like, because there's going to be some meeting planners who are like, I don't want to have the tequila guy here at our credit union or whatever. To which I said, you're probably right. But trust me, more will hire me because of it than those who will not hire me because of it. And that has proven to be correct.
I've done some credit union events, and I feel like they'd want it.
I am coming to do a credit union event in Iowa very soon.
Okay. Well, there you go. You heard it here
one of
first.
The Cedars. It's either Falls or Rapids, or I don't. It's
one of the Cedars. Well, they're only about an hour apart. So
I know, which is got to be very confusing. I'm sure people go to the wrong place. As my business partner Maddie said, she's like, "Wow, there's a lot of Cedars in Iowa," and I'm like, "Evidently,
there is." And I fly into Cedar Rapids, and the small last plane, every now and then the flight attendant will get something wrong with either one of the Cedars or one of the Rapids. And we're, on our way in potential arrival time in Rapid City. And everybody on the plane's like, wait, what?
Boo.
Yeah. Well, I have smiled many times during this conversation, but it is now my turn, Jay, to ask you for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Okay, so there is an AI dating app.
Okay.
Called Valor. And this actually exists. Okay, I'm going to use this one because of our previous AI conversation. I'm not making this up, because people talk a lot about agentic AI and AI agents. And that's the idea that you have a robot assistant that goes out and researches things and buys things and brings the information back and plans your trip and all that. But I think it's easiest to understand agentic AI and what it can do based on this example of Valor, which definitely makes me smile. Now, I am not on a dating app. I celebrated my 33rd anniversary this week, so I am not a user of this app, but I'm very familiar with how it works because I talk about it in my presentations. So you go to the app and you sign up in your profile and you answer the questions and you talk about your things and all that. And then on the back end, the app creates an AI version of Nick. There's AI Nick. Right, in the cloud. At the same time, there are AI versions of all these other potential people that you might want to date. The AI robots go on AI dates in the cloud. And they go on a first date, maybe a second date, and they talk and they interact. And how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about that? And then after a couple of AI dates, if the AI robots get along, you get a message from AI Nick that says, Nick, it's AI Nick. I've been on a couple of dates with AI Julia. She seems pretty great. You guys should maybe meet up in the real world. That's how it works. And that makes me smile.
Wow. So get to see how it goes to see if it's
Yes.
if it's worth one's time.
Because what I've been told, it's been quite a while for me, but what I've been told is that the first couple of dates in the real world are not good. It's
Oh,
awkward. People lie. It's rough, right? So it takes away all of that kind of uncomfortableness and perhaps lack of truthiness, and replaces it with AI verification that you might be a good match.
awesome. Well, a relevant smile and certainly one to think about as people are optimizing and thinking
I'm
about.
expecting a big uptick in registrations based on listeners to the show.
There we go. Jay, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
You can find me at jaybaer.com. That's my website, which is steadily decreasing in importance, as we talked about earlier. Find me at jaybaer.com. And then for tequila, the best place is on Instagram. It's tequila jaybaer.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, which folks can find at onbrandpodcast.com. Jay Baer, thanks for coming back on brand with us.
So glad to be here. Let's do it again. Let's not wait as long this next time. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be with you, Nick.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.